Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? What a day yesterday. What a day this weekend. What a weekend this day. Let's see. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Two I didn't play, Liberty and Toledo. So out of 8 games, I go 7-1. Missing the Georgia game. Why is it that I could go 7-1 and the one loser is Georgia? And that's the free play. I was so confident on Georgia. I got a little bit watching the Alabama-Auburn game. So let's analyze why we lost. I watched the Alabama-Auburn game, and I saw Auburn run it down the throat. And I thought, well, Alabama's going to run it down their throat. And I watched the first quarter, and Georgia ran it down their throat, scored a touchdown, up 7-0. And I go, oh, okay. They'll put pressure on Milrose, and that'll be it. And I see the score is 27-17 Alabama. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, how did Georgia allow that many points? And where's their offense? I see the kid fumbled once, the Georgia quarterback. Okay. And that's it. And I'm like shaking my head. I had 3 locks. One's a pro, one was Georgia, and then one was, I believe, Florida State. Either Florida State under or SMU under, either one. So let's go through it. So Oregon, Washington, I have the under. It wins 34-31. I'm under 72. Oak State, Texas, I have over 50, like 48, I think. And it was 49 at halftime. The halftime score is 35-14. I already won the over. Boise, Vegas, I go over 52, and it's 44-26. That's a 70-point game. Then we go to Georgia, Alabama. I miss with Georgia. And it's frustrating because I normally would play the dog in the 18, which would have been Alabama. I had under circled because 2 good defenses. So I'm thinking it's an under game. And I get skewed by the Auburn game. And I go, well, they're going to win. Georgia's going to beat them. They have to win. They couldn't lay down. At least I don't think they laid down because I don't know if Georgia's getting in or not. They should. They're the best team, but, this is what happens. SMU, Tulane, I play the game under because SMU's quarterback's out. They both have good defenses. I'm kind of shocked that SMU won, but 26-14 is a 40. I'm under 53-54. App State, Troy, I go over because I like App State. Good quarterback. Troy can score. App State with the weak defense. 49-23. I'm over 45. Unbelievable. LSU or Louisville, Florida State, I go under. Florida State doesn't have Travis. That ends up with the 3rd-string quarterback. They play a 16-6 game. I'm under 53. And last but not least, I don't fuck around with the Michigan. I like the game over 28.5, but I go, you never know. Let's go Michigan because I know I'm not going to get points from Iowa with Michigan's defense, and they win 26-0, and I'm laying 17, and I'm laying 15. So clean sweep, except for the fucking Georgia game, which have I not seen the Auburn game, I might have been more lenient on the under because you know how I am in these Oregon-Washington games and, games like that, LSU, Florida State. I'm more tempted to go under. Just a second. Let me get my coffee. Wow. Hot stuff. All right, sorry about that. So disappointed that Georgia lost, that I took the Georgia instead of the under, but again, I got kind of with the Auburn game. And the ironic part is that touchdown at the end of the Auburn game, Auburn Billy beats them. How does Georgia lose? And they weren't pressuring Milrose, which was surprising. So I think Georgia was beating them because they were just more like Steve Young's more of a drop back passer, and the other guys where Milrose is running, and maybe they have a trouble with the running quarterback. Hey, Alex, how are you? So how do we look at overs and unders, right? So how did I do it? So Oregon, Washington, the defenses were good. I just thought the over-under was too high, 66. I'm under 72. I said, no, they're not getting it. I almost half pointed it. If Oregon would have came back and won 38-34, I would have been under 72 and a half. But basically, just really part of it's the number, and then part of it's is the defense and really the team. Oklahoma State, Texas, I had the over. Ollie Gordon had a couple touchdowns. They didn't feed him the ball enough. They couldn't stop Texas because they don't have a good defense. So where you see bad defenses is where I get more on the over. This number was also very low, 54. I'm going over 48. Like I said, at halftime, I had the over. It was 49 at halftime. And as I said, Texas, teams like that are going to blow out because they want to impress. It's college football. They can't win 10-7. So Texas puts up a big number on my Oak State team and 49-21 it. So basically that's where I got the over. Was I didn't think Oak State could stop them, but I knew after Oak State against Oklahoma, they'd be able to score. And we got 21, which was plenty in this game, but I knew we'd get it. Then we're going to stop Ollie Gordon the whole game. Boise, Vegas, both teams are over teams with 26 defenses, perfect over. And then I looked at the number was 58, so I'm over 52. I said, that's a joke. And that should have been my free play and lock, but it's always easier after the fact. But that was such an easy game, 44-26 there, a 70, needing 52. Guys, it was really at halftime. I needed one touchdown. It was like 31-14 or something. But Boise, they run the ball. Boise, it's mostly running, but they do score a lot, and Vegas scores a lot, and neither team really has strong defense. So you knew it was going to go up and down the field, especially these championship games. You want to keep scoring because you don't want to sit on a lead and they come back on you. Georgia, Alabama, yeah, it was an under game. I had under 54, under 60. They played a 51. Again, I think I'm a little shocked Alabama got 27, and I'm a little shocked Georgia only got 24. But I did have it under, but I played Georgia instead. But again, you had two good defenses, and that usually brings you an under. SMU Tulane, now here's my perfect example, a 17 and an 18 defense, but SMU doesn't have their quarterback. So now the second string quarterback's going against a tough Tulane team with a tough defense. So I knew defenses would dominate, and it was 48. I'm under 54, and they play a 26-14 game. So here's where Stone's out for SMU. The defenses are strong. It should be a low-scoring game, and it was. Now, the converse, App State, Troy, they both have good quarterbacks App State's quarterback's really good. And again, this number was 51. I'm going over 45. This is a freaking joke. Troy's got a good defense, but App State plays good games, plays big games, so I wasn't really worried. I thought they would score a lot, and I didn't think it would be really tough to get to 45, and it got to 72. LSU, Florida State. Now here you got two great defenses with no offense. I don't like Plum or Louisville as quarterback, and our Florida State quarterback's out, and he won't be back. He's out. Then to top it off, the second string quarterback's out. So now it's the third string quarterback. And what an idiot. He's like running and he's getting hit. He's not sliding. It's like, dude, there's nobody else. If you get hurt, their fourth string quarterback, I can't imagine. It would be just wildcat the whole game. So love that game under. It was under 46. Never really got adjusted for Travis being out with these two strong defenses. So, there's not going to be a lot of scoring. And Michigan, Iowa, 34.5, extremely low total. I almost went 28.5. But as I thought about it, with Iowa, with the backup quarterback, they're not going to score, and they didn't. And Michigan, they would have scored more, but they kicked 4 field goals. So if they get one touchdown, that's a 30, and that covers the 28. But I knew I wasn't going to get help, which meant I knew Michigan would then cover. My first bet was 17. I bet it again when it went down to 21. Why is it going down? Who's betting Iowa? Who in their right mind's betting Iowa, except for the Sharps, obviously? So that's kind of food for thought, what you're looking for in over-under, which takes you back to why I look at offenses and defenses. So I can see how Louisville, Florida State, 2 monster defenses. How are you going to get a lot of points against that unless you have like an Oregon and a Washington offense or an Oklahoma, Texas offense, which you don't have with Louisville, Florida State, and you didn't have with SMU Tulane because SMU's quarterback's out. So I give SMU a lot of credit. Their backup quarterback, 26 on Tulane. At Tulane's a very good number. So with that said, hit everything but the Georgia, and then played some like Florida State. I played with today's game, and I think I have an SMU with today's game. So I cross over anything I have with Georgia, I rebet because I liked it. The one pro lock, and then the other, I think it was SMU, was my lock under. And then I played it again. I think I played it with Florida State, and then I think I still played it with the pro team. So let's go to the pros. Let's go to the pros. So I looked at the line when I wake up, and then I looked at it just before, and here we go. All right, so we start off San Diego down to 4.5 and 39.5. So Keenan Allen must be out because he was questionable, and the line went up to 5.5, jumped to 41.5, and now it's back down to 39.5. So I'm assuming Keenan Allen is out. Let's see if we get any info here, but that must be it. Keenan Allen's limited questionable quad, but I'm not sure I'm getting the right injuries. We'll come back to that one. But that's what my guess. But I still think San Diego, all right, Zappy's starting. I mean, finally, but I think San Diego wins the game. Detroit 4 and 48. This was 4.5. This was 45 to 47. Now 48. Atlanta 2, 33.5. This is up from 1. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not playing. Never thought he would. Maybe in a few weeks, but not this week. Pittsburgh 6.5, 40.5. They look ready to go against Arizona. Indy 1.5, 42.5. That hasn't moved. That's a tough one because Taylor's out, and Henry and the the receiver, the good one, I can't. Hopkins is. They're both playing, and they're going with Levis. So, hardly good quarterback play. Miami 9.5, 49.5 against Washington. They're all set. Mozart's playing, Tyreek Hill's playing, Waddle's playing. Everybody's playing for Miami and Washington. Houston 347.5. Thank you, God. We got Denver at 9. Amazing. Tampa Bay down to 3. They were 5.5. 36.5. That stayed. So we got to look at that game. Who's out for Tampa? The Niners, the game of the day against Philly, 346.5. It was a 2.5, and it was 46.5, 47.5. The Rams, 3.5, 39.5. Was 40.5, 39.5. Against Cleveland, yeah, there should be an under game, especially with Flacco. Flacco hasn't played in a few years. What do you think? He's just going to come in, know the players, have the timing with the receivers, and just, duh. I don't think so. KC, 642.5 against Green Bay. And Jacksonville is now 9.5. They were 8.5 for a while, and 39. And again, you got Browning and T. Higgins, I believe, is playing. Let's go to my other site to check the injuries. NFL starting lineups. So we're interested. San Diego, it's got to be Keenan Allen out. Let's see if it tells us here. Denver and Houston are all set. Tank Dell for Houston was questionable, but I thought he'd play. Everybody, Judy, Mims, everybody for Denver's playing. San Diego, well, Keenan Allen is playing. Eckler, Keenan Allen, Johnson, Guyton. As far as I can see here, he's playing against Zappy. What is the money going on Zappy? Let's see. Nothing major for San Diego being out, except for Boza, I believe. Detroit, New Orleans, Carr, Kamara, Olavi looks good. Hey, Bobby Bo, how are you today? Olavi's playing, Perry, Bowden, Detroit, Montgomery, and that. So, the only receiver Shaheed for New Orleans is out, but otherwise they've got their full Kamara, Olavi in there. Atlanta, Riddler against Boyle. Do you think this game will hit 17? Everybody looks healthy. Lazard. Well, I mean, Bryce Hall. Now, Breece Hall. There's a Bryce Hall and a Breece Hall. Breece Hall is playing. Zach Wilson's inactive. Well, what are you going to do if Boyle gets hurt? Who are you going to go with? Riddler. Wow, they got Logan Woodside on Atlanta, and they're fucking around with Riddler. Logan Woodside, quarterback Toledo, is much better than Riddler. Wow. Arizona, they're healthy, and Pitt's healthy. Pickett, Najee Harris, Pickens, Johnson. Nobody really big out. Indy and Tennessee, Minshew, we got Zach Moss in for Taylor, and we got Levis, and we got Henry Hopkins and whoever else they got that we don't know on their thing. Malik Willis is inactive. Miami and Washington, Tagovailoa, Mozart Hill, Waddle, everybody's going against Thurston Howell III, and those guys, everybody's going on both sides. Carolina, Tampa Bay, Steve Young, Hubbard, Thielen, they're all there. Their tight end is doubtful, Treble. Tampa Bay, Mayfield, Evans, Godwin is questionable, but I would think maybe that's why Godwin maybe's out. Would that really drop the line against Carolina? I don't know. What's the over-under this? 36.5. Holy shit. Cleveland and the Rams, Flacco, Ford, Cooper. So they don't have Hunt playing at all. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, everybody's healthy there. I don't see how Flacco's just going to walk in against Aaron Donald and do shit. Frisco, Philly. Philly is healthy. Hurts, Swift, Brown, Smith. They were all questionable or all playing. Goddard, the tight end's doubtful. And Frisco's all healthy. Purdy, McCafferty, Samuel, Kittle. KC, Green Bay. We got Mahomes, Pacheco, Rice, Watson, and more. God, what shitty receivers they got. Green Bay, Jordan Love. Now, Jones is out. Dillon is the running back. And Jaden Reed, Michigan State guy, the receiver, is questionable. He's still questionable. And then Monday night, Cincinnati and Jacksonville. Browning, Mixon, Chase, Higgins, good team except for Browning. Trevor Lawrence and Etienne is questionable here, but based on this line, I would say he's going to play. So I as far as I can do, I am seeing that. Let's look at my covers. I just want to check for Keenan Allen. So what the fuck's going on with Keenan Allen? Now let's look at Jacksonville. See here, Etienne's probable with the chest. So I get two different things. San Diego, Keenan Allen's probable with a quad. So I think Keenan Allen is playing. However, why is the line dropped to 4.5? Because Zappi's playing? All right, Bobby Bo. Bama is back. Can't believe how convincingly they beat Georgia. Well, I don't think they pressured the quarterback. They were letting him run all over the place. Georgia showed some good fight, though, but their defense couldn't get stops at the end. I didn't understand their defense at all. Milrose and that Bond were clicking big time. But it's like you and I mentioned a while back, it's just certain teams and players that do great as underdogs. Example, Brady, LeBron, Bama. Well, I think in this case, I don't think this time Georgia laid down because they might not be in the playoff. I mean, that's hard enough to fathom. They're still the best team. I mean, theoretically, Auburn beat Alabama because that was bullshit offensive pass interference on the last play of the game there. So, okay, if you want to count that, I mean, so theoretically Auburn should go because they beat Alabama, who beat Georgia. So it just shows you in one game, but you can't take away Georgia beating Tennessee and Missouri, who are just as good as Alabama. So I don't know why Georgia wouldn't be in the playoff, but they won't be. This is the problem with the 14 playoff. You have 7, 8 teams that should be in, and it would be a very good playoff, right? How do you put Alabama in? Florida State's got to go in. They didn't lose. They won their division, and they didn't lose, and they beat LSU. Washington's undefeated. Michigan's undefeated. And if it's between Texas and Alabama, guess what? Texas won. So how do you not put Texas in? How do you not put Florida State in? I mean, they're undefeated. They won with, does it really matter? You don't have this. What if the quarterback gets hurt in the Texas-Alabama championship game 10 years ago? Colt McCoy gets hurt in the first quarter. Oh, well, let's not have the game then. The quarterback's hurt. That's part of the game. I don't know how Florida State doesn't get in. They beat LSU. They beat Clemson. They beat Louisville, who beat Notre Dame bad. I thought Notre Dame would have been there with Hartman. Terrible coaching there. Yeah, I think that this is the hardest 4 to pick for playoffs in years. Next year will be way better with more than team format. I think it should be Michigan, Washington, Bama, and Texas from a best team entertainment. Forget the entertainment. This isn't about entertainment. But the right thing is to put FSU as the 4 over Alabama. Exactly. It would kill the fan interest if they do put Florida State. I don't buy that. So I can see them leaving them out. What is the point of the playoff? Fan interest? Well, then have Ohio State in, and let's have Vegas in. Let's have Toledo. I mean, well, why isn't Colorado in? If you want fan interest, then Colorado should be in, and USC. They'll give you the most fan interest, right? Prime and Caleb, and then you could have Penn State and Nebraska, or Oklahoma should go in then. I mean, that's not the point of the playoff. In the NFL, it's that you win your division. It's got nothing to do that. How much interest is going to be if the Lions make the playoffs, which I'm hoping they don't, but there's no interest in that. So I don't agree with that. I think you've got to have Florida State in. You can't have Alabama in because Texas beat them. You cannot put Alabama in and not Texas. You've got to put Washington and Michigan in. So it's Florida State, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. How the fuck do you leave Georgia out? Are you kidding me? I mean, they would beat half the pro teams. How do you leave them out? It's a matchup thing because obviously they had trouble with Ohio State and LSU last year with the running quarterbacks and Milrose. So obviously it's a matchup thing. Had they played the old Alabama team or had they played LSU, I think they would have lost because I don't think they could have handled Daniels. I can't believe their defense was this bad. So anyway, Texas-Bama rematch would be great. Michigan versus Texas or Bama would be great too. Florida State really kills the first round if they keep them there. You assume Florida State can't win, and I don't. There was a 1965 playoff game between Green Bay and the Baltimore Colts. And Johnny Unitas and his backup, I don't know if it was Morrill at the time, I think it was Gary Quazzo, were both injured. You know who quarterbacked? Tom Matte, who quarterbacked at Ohio State, was the running back for Baltimore, was the quarterback. Guess what? They still played the game. Guess what? Baltimore won, but they gave them Green Bay kicked a field goal that really kind of missed, but they counted it good because it's Lombardi, and Green Bay won in overtime with Tom Matte as the quarterback because they had a killer defense. So I'm sorry, I don't buy the fact that because it's a third-string quarterback, they can't win. Look at SMU yesterday. Stone was out. They went to Tulane, who's a great team, and beat the shit out of them. So I don't buy that the backup quarterback can't win. Cam Rising, backup quarterback. Van Dyke, backup quarterback. So I don't buy that. I think they could figure out a way to do it, but they have a killer defense. You're just going to ignore the killer defense? Look at Michigan yesterday. They had so much problems with Iowa's defense, which their best player was out. Should they not have had Iowa there? I mean, if you go to that route, Bobby, it's like, well, let's see. Oh, wait, Cincinnati, they shouldn't be playing today. Burrow's out. And the Jets shouldn't play because what if the Jets make the playoffs without Aaron Rodgers? Should they not be in because Aaron Rodgers isn't there? It's a team game, and it doesn't matter if Travis is playing or not. And the funny part is everybody's going to scream, why did he play against Northern Alabama? You got hurt. Well, that's football, right? But I don't agree with you at all. I think Florida State has every chance of beating Texas and Michigan and Washington. They have every chance of beating any of those teams. And Alabama, you have that defense. Florida State could beat Alabama very easily if they take Milrose out of the game. If they just pressure him like they did yesterday, they have every chance of beating Alabama. They won't score a lot. They can win 10-6, but you can't. I don't want to hear the backup quarterback can't complete a pass. He's that bad he can't complete a pass. I mean, that's bullshit. Greg great coach, great defense can win games. So if you're going to do that, then, really, wait, I think Alabama's got an injury, so Georgia should be in there. Brock Bowers played yesterday, so wait a minute. So Georgia has a chance. I mean, first of all, 4 teams is a joke. So your playoff should be Oregon and Washington should both be in. Texas and Oklahoma or Oklahoma State should be in. Michigan and Ohio State should be in. Florida State should be in. Georgia and Alabama should be in. Boise should be in. And SMU should be in. You telling me SMU can't beat anybody? They fucking won at Tulane. They're an A team. Fuck, they can beat anybody. This is what I don't understand. Boise's proven it. Boise's beat Oklahoma in that one Orange Bowl or Fiesta Bowl game. So don't tell me they can't win. Oh, you need to be Power 5. Fuck that. Boise beat a good Vegas team. They should be in. And SMU beat Tulane. So why aren't they being asked? I'm so sick of this Alabama shit. They lost to Texas. You're out. Florida State didn't lose to anybody. All right, Georgia, you want to penalize them for losing to Alabama? Okay. You got to have Washington, Michigan, and Florida State. They're undefeated. You can't take that away. So you got a problem because you got 8 teams in a 4-team playoff. And whoever wins, there's an asterisk because if Michigan wins, they didn't play Georgia. Georgia would beat Michigan, right? If Georgia played Michigan, Georgia would win. So we can go that way too. Can Alabama beat Michigan? I don't know. Georgia could beat Michigan. Oregon would beat Michigan. I don't know if Washington can beat Michigan. I don't know if Washington's defense is that good. I think Oregon would give Michigan a better game. What do you got? You got Washington, Texas. Well, we know Oklahoma beat them because they already did. I think Missouri could beat half these teams. I mean, it's all down to let's play, but you've got to you win your confidence and you're undefeated. You've got to be in. Now, the fact we have 5 different teams, maybe what you should do is say, you know what, this year we're going to have an 8-team playoff. Why not? Why can't they? Why do they have to have a 4-team playoff? The interest would be there. The money would be there. You'd have 4 more games. You'd have much more interest in it because now what you're going to say is, well, Florida State got fucked or Oregon got fucked or Georgia got fucked. That's what you end up doing, and that's the problem. But wait a minute. Supply and demand economics always comes back into it. Do you have demand for an 8-team playoff this year? Absolutely. So why not do it? Why do you just have 4 teams? Right? It's a gift. You got 8 teams you could put in there. Oregon, Georgia, whoever you leave out, and Ohio State. There you got 8 teams, or Boise. You got 8 teams easy. Go play an 8-team playoff. Why do you have to play 4-team playoff? What's the point? You sign a contract? Well, tear it up and sign a new one. That happens all the time. So that's the answer, but they're too stupid to do that, right? Texas-Bama matchup would be great. Michigan versus Texas or Bama would be great too. Florida State, no, okay. I think they can have a puncher's chance at a low-scoring game with some luck on turnovers or the other team comes flat. Just don't got the firepower to score, and offense these days wins. Did you watch the game? 16-6 yesterday? Where was Louisville's offense? They put up 30 on Notre Dame. They got 6 yesterday. I'm not buying that, Bobby Bo. I'm not smelling what you're cooking with that one. But they can't score, and CFP don't want, then they don't care. Georgia plays a lot of low-scoring games, but Boise and other teams beat bad competition. Well, Boise just beat UNLV. And SMU played some good teams. But they won their conference. That's the point, Bobby. Who does the Lions beaten? Nobody. The Lions haven't beaten anybody good. Why should they be in the playoffs? Michigan beat a lot of bad competition. I don't think Iowa was that good. So Iowa is exactly your point about Florida State. Good defense, no offense. They lose 26-0. Why was that the conference championship game and not Michigan, Ohio State? Why did they stick to Michigan, Iowa, even though Iowa had no chance with no offense and a good defense? So why didn't they make it Michigan, Ohio State? Would have been exciting. But they didn't. So Michigan didn't play anybody either all year except Ohio State. That's it. They played one game. Bama only loses to real teams. Texas the same. I don't agree with that. I don't like those little schools in there because they take up space. What are we, in a closet? Michigan, Bama, UGA, Washington, Florida, Texas should be there. The rest are not serious because even my LSU with 3 losses would slap. I don't know about that. They beat a good Tulane team. Why isn't LSU in the playoffs? Why does it matter they lost 3 games? LSU could beat any of these teams. They got offense, but problem is defense wins. Florida State's got defense. But just because LSU's got 3 losses shouldn't eliminate them. Why should they eliminate them? I saw the Giants beat New England in the Super Bowl with 7 losses. So that doesn't matter. Unless could get killed by my LSU. I don't know what and loss is. And LSU got 3 losses. It levels to it. I don't go by the wins because it's like we say about these bad quarterbacks that do great against bad teams, and now us on TV start hyping them out. LSU lost to heavyweights. Well, they lost to Florida State. There you go, Bobby. They lost to Florida State. Fox logo isn't a fox at all. So if Florida State can beat LSU with their defense, why can't they beat Alabama, Michigan, or Texas, which they could? I mean, you're overrating Jordan Travis and you're underrating the backup. You know, he play bad? This is fucking Louisville who beat Notre Dame. They shut out Duke and they beat Notre Dame like 38-10. Did he really do bad? Notre Dame didn't get 16 on him. So I'm not quite sure that you can look at the backup quarterback against Louisville with a Louisville's defense was a 20 and they put up 16 points. So I'm not sure he did bad. And I think he would do the same. I don't think Michigan would shut him out, and Texas certainly wouldn't shut him out with their defense. They got a fucking 17. Alabama's got an 18. So what you're looking at is Texas with the 17 defense, Alabama an 18, Michigan a 10, and Washington's got a 23 fucking defense. Florida State would beat Washington. Just because they beat Oregon, it's a matchup thing. Oregon's in their heads because Oregon let up all the points. They didn't let up the points to Colorado or USC. So that's a head case. Florida State could beat Washington. That wouldn't be a problem at all with their defense. They'd be all over Penix. He wouldn't have time to throw. They don't run. Their defense is lousy. That's a team they could beat. Washington shouldn't be in the playoff. Based on their defense, they don't have a chance. It's like the old Oklahoma when they'd win the Big 12 and then they'd get their ass kicked because their defense was a 25. So of the 2 teams, Oregon's more deserving than Washington. It's just they couldn't beat them. But why do you eliminate Oregon? Look at all the wins they had. This is what I have a problem with. Oregon's better than Washington. Texas, okay. They beat Alabama. Georgia, the 16 defense, certainly should be there. SMU's got a 17 defense. How about Troy? They got a 17 defense. Florida State to 17, Michigan to 10. Maybe Iowa should be there. They got a 12 defense. Or do we want over teams? So let's put Colorado and USC in it. I mean, then we could go with that if we want excitement and the best offenses in there. Well, I don't think Colorado's got the best, but Colorado got 4 wins. I think they should be in it. They got just as good a chance of getting their ass kicked as Washington does. Yeah, I'm used to Oregon losing big games. They will never win a title if they remain structured as in the past years, which they don't. They got a better defense. Why didn't it show up against Washington is the question. UGA will kill them just like LSU, and every SEC team exposes them every time. And Bobby Bo used to love the Ducks, but they let me down all the time, bullying the Pac-12. Well, I never liked Oregon. When they played Auburn, I don't remember who won that game, but my point is, what is the point of the playoff? Is it to have to have the best four teams in there? You'll never get that. Not this year, because you can't identify the best four teams. You look at a record and say the best four is based on the record. Okay, that's bullshit. Look at Michigan's schedule. Okay, they beat one team, Ohio State. Big fucking deal. Texas beat Alabama, Oak State, Kansas State, Kansas. The only problem is they didn't beat Oklahoma. And then Oklahoma ran into Kansas and Oak State, two very good teams, much better than anybody on Michigan's schedule, but they don't get in because they have two losses, but they beat Texas. I mean, it's such bullshit. The problem is you got 5 conferences. And, we can't leave Alabama out. They won the SEC. Well, yeah, we can because they lost to Texas. Washington and Michigan got to be in. Well, I don't know. Michigan probably shouldn't be in based on their schedule. I would rather see Florida State, Texas, Washington, Oregon, Alabama, and Georgia are all better than Michigan. Again, they didn't play any. We didn't know who they were till they played Ohio State. And then we saw them 30-24 to Ohio State. So how good are they? I don't know. I don't think they're that good. Well, they'll probably fuck up next year with 12 teams. Well, what I'm saying is with the 4 teams, why aren't you making it 8 teams this year? Because you've got 8 teams easily that would, you can throw in Oregon, you can throw in Oklahoma, you can throw in Georgia, and you can throw in Ohio State. You got 8 teams. Without blinking an eye, you've got an 8-team playoff that would give you the real champ. You're not getting, I don't care who wins. Whoever wins this is not the champ. It's like the college basketball tournament. Whoever wins the college basketball tournament, I remember talking to somebody about it, and I said, well, whoever, Kansas won the tournament, they're the best team. I go, they're not the best team. They just won the tournament. That winning a tournament, because you get an upset, right? A 1 seed gets upset. So you didn't beat the 1 seed, you beat a 9 seed, to your point in this, Bobby. So if Kansas beat, North Texas as a 9 seed because they upset the 1 seed, are they really the best team? No, they didn't play the 1 seeds, which is what we're saying here is, wait a minute, do we have the 1 seeds? No, we don't. We don't have Oregon. We don't have Ohio State. We don't have Georgia, let's say. We do not have the best teams in this playoff. We have, is Washington, well, I don't know. The Washington team I saw play Washington State looked like shit. The Alabama team I saw against Auburn looked like shit, right? So we can always point out, hey, Georgia killed Tennessee and Missouri. They deserve it ahead of Alabama beating Auburn. I mean, so we don't know. There's no, if you don't have Georgia in this, it's not real. I'm sorry. Georgia is the best team. They got a bad matchup yesterday that Alabama should have 2 losses, shouldn't even be in there. They should have more. They should have lost to Ole Miss too. Yeah, it's true, because I do think Texas should be left out. But on the flip side, Bama is good in revenge games and would most likely beat Texas. But I also think Georgia would beat Bama. Well, that's what they did a few years ago, right? They laid down in the SEC championship game so Bama could get into the playoff, and then in the final game, Georgia killed them. And I guarantee you, Georgia is the best team. That's why I locked it yesterday. Why they didn't win, I was shocked. I don't know if they let them in again, but now they're getting fucked because they let them in, and now they might not be in. Georgia is the best team, pretty much in pro and college, right? Georgia would win the NFC South, the AFC South, the NFC North. There's not a whole lot of NFL teams that can beat Georgia. So I'm just, if they're not in it, it's not even a playoff. I mean, what's the point? What are you kidding me? This is not a playoff. So Alabama gets in because Alabama's the one doing the playoff. It's just like the government. Since all the lobbyists pay whatever, then they always get what they want because the banks are paying the government, the Congress and the senators or governors or whoever the fuck makes these decisions. So that's basically what you have. You've got a fraud for sure. You need an 18 playoff, and Georgia needs to be included if you want anybody to take it serious. So Alabama wins, and you're going, yeah, they didn't beat Georgia. I mean, fuck. I don't look at yesterday's game as the end-all, be-all. They fucking lost to Auburn. They really lost to Auburn. But we don't call offensive pass interference against Nick Saban at the end of the game. Georgia last one game in 2 years and might be left out. It's ridiculous. I agree. Georgia would be like best all these teams. You cannot have a playoff without the number one team being in it. Otherwise, what's the point? Agree, Bobby. And just because Alabama beat them, well, Auburn beat Alabama, maybe Auburn should be in there. And then how do you keep Texas out? They beat Alabama. I mean, wait a minute. Oklahoma beat Texas, so Oklahoma should be there. Whoa, wait. Kansas beat Oklahoma. Kansas should be in there. That's who we're missing, Kansas. Who beat Kansas State beat Kansas, so Kansas State should be. I mean, it gets to the point, just because you win a game, it's bullshit. It really is. And the way they lost, I didn't watch the whole game. I watched the first quarter, and Georgia ran right through them, and it was 7-0. They just handed the guy, and the guy ran in. I said, this is going to be 35-0. I didn't think Alabama was going to score. They couldn't score on Auburn. I was really surprised with Georgia's defense. That what happened on that one pass? The guy's wide open. He runs in. Is this Georgia I'm watching? So I couldn't understand that. I don't know if they changed defensive coordinators or what the fuck they did, but this was not my Georgia team. All right, let's talk NFL for a minute. Although we've talked about it. Let's look at the lines one more time. So Keenan Allen looks like he's playing. So I think we would load up on San Diego. This line's ridiculous. So real quick, San Diego 4.5, 39.5. The Lions 4.48. Atlanta 2, 33.5. Pittsburgh 6.5, 40.5. Indy 1.5, 42.5. We got Miami 9.5, 49.5. We got Houston 3, 47.5. Denver is your free play. Tampa Bay 3, 36.5. I don't know why this line went down. This take Tampa here. This is easy. You're going to bet on Steve Young. The Niners 3, 46.5. Game of the day. This is a must win for the Niners. So I'd be careful betting the Eagles. Maybe +9. I think it's more over. The Rams 3.5, 39.5. Joe Flacco is not coming in and making any difference. KC down to 5.5, 42.5. Why the fuck would you bet on Green Bay in this game? Jacksonville 9.5, 39. Can you trust Jacksonville against Browning? Probably. So here are my scores. I got Indy 23-17 over Tennessee. I got San Diego 31-13 over New England. Assuming Keenan Allen plays, I got Detroit 27, New Orleans 20. I got Olave playing. They might score a little bit more. Atlanta 20-10 to the Jets's. Pitt 20-10 over Arizona. Miami 38, Washington 31. Miami to Tagovailoa will have a big day, and everybody can go, oh, look, he's the best quarterback in the world. Yeah, he's paying a 29 defense. If he doesn't put up 40, it's a bad day for him. Denver 24, Houston 20. They're hot. They got Sean Payton and Russell Wilson against Stroud. Yeah, all day. Tampa Bay 24-10 over Carolina. Mayfield against Steve Young. I don't. Carolina's terrible. They got so many injuries, but they're terrible anyway. Young isn't going to win a game. He got lucky to beat Houston at home. Shows you how bad Houston is, but that's it. LA 20-14. I'm not sure Cleveland gets 14 now that we got Flacco in. That was with DTR, so it might be like 20-10 because I'm going to change the 14-10 that we got Flacco. You got Aaron Donald. Yeah, what's Flacco going to do when he sees Aaron Donald coming at him? Yeah, goodbye. He's not going to be in concert with the receivers. They don't have a running attack because Hunt's out also. Good defense, probably a good under game, but I think the Rams light him up a little bit. San Francisco 30, Philadelphia 27. Should be a high-scoring game. I think Philly can put up points on Frisco. It's always a scary proposition, but Frisco is 2 games behind. They're going for the 1 seed. When you're at that level, you play for 1 seeds, and I just don't see Frisco. I don't see them losing. They're healthy. Philly's healthy. Purdy over Hurts. I got to go with Purdy. Hurts, he can't really complete too many passes to the right team. So not a big Hurts fan. He runs too much. But you got the Madoff special, so I think Philly can score on them. So 30-27 should be a good game. KC 24, Green Bay 13. I don't get this. Who's betting on Green Bay? Love, Aaron Jones is out. Love had a good game against the Lions. So what does that mean? That's like when the Tigers scored 10 runs against the pitcher with a 10 ERA. Oh, look at the Tigers can hit now. And then as soon as they face Verlander, they get shut out. And you're like, yeah, against a good pitcher, they suck. It's so critical to look at who you played to really find out the team. If Philly beats the Niners today, I'll be shocked, but I'll okay, they're the best team. But it doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl because they still got to play the Niners. And then I got Jacksonville 20, Cincinnati 10. Since he won't score much, I don't love Trevor Lawrence, as you know, since he's got a pretty good defense. So let's go. The best defenses today, we've got Pitt with the 19, and we got Cleveland with the 19, Frisco with the 16, Kansas City with the 17. Remember, Kansas City is an under team now. They are not an over team. If you looked at their receivers, you would realize who does Mahomes have to throw to besides Kelsey? So they're going to run more. Mahomes will do his show, and 24-13 sounds about right because their defense is killer. And that's it. The rest are 21-22. The worst defense today, we got Arizona as a 27, Washington as a 29, Carolina as a 27, and that's it. And the others are 21, 22, 23s. So that's kind of how I look at it. So how do I look at over-unders today? Miami, Washington. We got an over team in Miami. They score 30 points a game, but they give up 23. Washington gives up 29. Miami will score 30 points. We got a 49 over-under. We get a little bit from Washington, which we should. So maybe it's 30, 38. I'm assuming 31 because Miami can't stop the win. That's how you get an over when you have lousy defenses and fairly good quarterbacks, although Howell's not a good quarterback, but Miami's defense sucks. So at least 14 for Washington and in the 30s, gets you in the 50s. That's how you look at an over. How do we look at an under today? We'll go to Atlanta and the Jets. You've got a 21 defense and a 22. You got Riddler against Boyle. This is Florida State against Louisville. You've got no quarterback play. how are you going to score? So Atlanta's going to run, play Army Navy, and the Jets, they don't even have the running back. I don't know if he's playing. So you've got Boyle. Does he know what team he's on? Does he know it's the green uniforms? That was the Joe Namath joke. The guy says to Joe, we're wearing green today because he'd throw a lot of interceptions. So that's how you look at an under. Atlanta doesn't score. The Jets score 15. Atlanta scores like 19. And they have 21-22 defenses. Now, the over-under is 34, so it is associated. That's why we tease it. So we tease it under 40. And we just don't see Atlanta scoring much on this defense, and we don't see the Jets scoring at all with Boyle. So you've got to watch the quarterback. So when you get to Purdy against Hurts, you can see, even though the defenses are 16-22, you've got teams that can score, and that's where, had the Jets played the Niners, and I don't know if they played or not, you just take the Niners. But if you get them again, if you get Cleveland and the Jets, you play it under. You got two teams, no quarterbacks, no scoring, and good defenses. That's the making of an under game. So you got to be careful. Where you get screwed up is like Frisco Philly today, where Frisco's an A team and Philly's an over team, and you think, well, it should be high scoring, and then it's 10-7 because the San Francisco's defense came to play. And now you're in trouble. You're going, oh, shit, I thought Philly could score. And the key is the Madoff play. They can't really stop it. Although Michigan stopped it yesterday, I noticed. Iowa tried doing it, and the quarterback slipped. And Michigan pushed their guys down instead of Iowa pushed them, and Michigan held them. So that's your games for today. Again, your free picks, Denver is a dog. They should be 3-point favorites. I saw the whole fourth quarter, and the UG defense was just giving up, eating short passes and runs. Well, yeah, I didn't see the fourth quarter. I just assumed Georgia was killing them because I saw them go up 7-0 running down their throat. I figured they're going to do that all game, just like Auburn did. That was the whole point of the bet. They couldn't stop the Auburn running game. What are they going to do against Georgia, who has a much better running game? And Brock Bowers played, I saw, and I think McConkey played. So Georgia had their players. I don't understand. I'll have to watch the highlights if it was the play calling. I know Georgia missed a field goal. That ties the game. And then Georgia's guy fumbled at his own 15, which I think only led to an Alabama field goal. That shows you how good Stenson Benson is, because he won any time like that. He won. He would have won the game yesterday. This kid looks good, but can he handle the pressure of the moment? And he couldn't. And that's what you don't know about the Florida State quarterback. He's obviously there for a reason. He's not like Boyle and Riddler. I mean, he's probably better than those guys. So you're not giving him credit. 16 points on Louisville. Ask Notre Dame about that, right? I don't believe Notre Dame got 16 on Louisville. Louisville has what was Louisville's defense? Louisville's defense was a 20. So you want to knock the kid for getting 16 points? He can't beat, believe me, he can beat Washington, who gives up a ton. Washington played Florida State. How many do you think Washington's going to get 20 points in that game? There's no fucking way. No way, not against that defense. The defense I saw yesterday could beat anybody. Defense wins. If I shut you out, I'm going to win, right? That defense, very strong. They shut down LSU, didn't they, Bobby? What was that score against LSU? Yeah, he's out on some illness. The whole year he's been out on an illness, non-football related, which I don't know what that is. But, yeah, it's Stenson's much better than, I'd rather have him than Riddler, Boyle, Goff, Zappi, Levis, Minshew. You go right down the list, I'd rather have him. He's a winner. you don't accidentally win 2 national titles and you can't handle the pressure. LSU put up 24 in Florida State. There you go. And that's probably the lowest score LSU got all year, I would bet. Right? They put up more on Alabama. So wait a minute. Florida State should be in ahead of Alabama because LSU got more points on Alabama than they did. And they cheated. Alabama knocked out the quarterback with an illegal helmet to the chin. How does that count? Oh, wait, well, we don't count that. And we don't count the offensive pass interference against Auburn. Let's not count that because it's Alabama. And then we'll say, look how good they are. Yeah, okay. Well, I know LSU had a bad defense. That's Kelly's fault. Or they would beat Florida State easily, just like they should have done last year. Well, they didn't beat them easily because Daniels threw all these picks. So that's what you're looking at. To think Florida State can't win is a joke. They beat a damn good Louisville team, the very good defense, and a very good offense, and they just shut them out. What would you expect the score with Travis to be against Louisville? What was the score you think they against Notre Dame? They beat them like 33-10 or 33-15. So the great Notre Dame with Hartman couldn't do anything. What was Travis going to do? You think he'd have gotten 20? It would have been a low-scoring game. Travis isn't that good. So it's a bunch of bullshit if Florida State isn't in. In our formula, we'd let LSU in because they're exciting. We'd let Colorado in because they got prime. Because we don't really care who wins. We just want it to be exciting for TV. So we'd want Prime in there. We'd want Caleb in there. Come on, boys. Penn State. Yeah, you lost a few games. That doesn't matter. $35-10. There you go. They beat Notre Dame 35-10. Well, what are you going to do? So Florida State with the backup quarterback got more points than Hartman. So don't tell me they can't win. When you have a strong defense like the Baltimore Ravens, when they won with who's the bald idiot quarterback who is a terrible announcer, they won with him. Baltimore won with that guy. I mean, because you have Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, they won. Florida State's got superstar defensive talent. Don't tell me they can't win. That's the whole point of football. If you can't score, how are you going to beat me? So they got the coach, and I'm not going to say they don't have the quarterback. I'm not buying. Sorry, Rock, I'm not smelling that. I don't buy that. That's a bunch of bullshit. Could be Florida State, Texas, Michigan, and Washington. I'm not sure Michigan belongs. They had one win over Ohio State, Whippy, who wasn't really that good this year anyway. They beat Notre Dame, who ended up being a fraud because they had no coaching. So, yeah, break down Michigan's win. Oh, Ohio State, okay, by 6. But they couldn't beat Georgia. They couldn't beat Oregon. They couldn't beat Texas. They couldn't beat Oklahoma. I don't think they could beat Oak State. Anyway, my take on the playoffs. Why don't you make it 8 teams this year, boys? The market's there for 8 teams. Make it an 8-team playoff because you're going to piss off people and they're not going to watch. How many people in Georgia are going to watch the playoff if they're not in it? Or Oregon? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Anyway. So NFL, there you go. Teams that need the games. Indy and Tennessee is basically a playoff game. Tennessee's close to being out, but not yet. San Diego, it's in a must-win. New Orleans is in a must-win with Atlanta. The Jets have faint hopes, but they're hoping Aaron Rodgers comes back. Pittsburgh must win. Denver and Houston must wins. Tampa Bay trying to catch Atlanta and New Orleans. Cleveland and LA, they both need the game. Cleveland's tied with Pitt. LA's needs to win to tie Seattle, I think. The Niners they don't need the win for the division. They need the win for the 1 seed against Philly. So Philly doesn't need to win. That's a whole different animal when you don't need to win. You got the 2-game lead, and the Niners need it. The Niners are going to win the game. KC and Green Bay both need it. Again, KC doesn't need it necessarily for the division. They do want to stay ahead of Denver because Denver beat them. And they want to catch the 1 seed, Baltimore. So KC must win. Green Bay, they're trying to win, but they're not very good. And then Jacksonville will need it to stay to win their division. And they're going for the 1 seed against Baltimore and Buffalo are off. Minnesota's off. I hate these buys are so stupid. So that's today, your free picks, Denver. Now, if you want the rest of the year, $200, all the bowls, all the pros. Bowl package will come out, $100. I'll probably put it out next week. Or you can pay $100 a week if you prefer. I won't argue with that, but I'm trying to help. And I am on fire. See, when you ask me how did I do, I really didn't go 7-1 because I had SMU in 2 teasers. I had Florida State in 2 teasers, Michigan in 2 teasers. So I really went about 12-2 in my teaser picks because the art of the teaser is to play them into teams. Two bets, right? So I have Florida State bet a couple times and SMU a couple times. And that's how you bet teasers. You don't just bet 1 game normally. Okay, anything else on football? Bobby Bo, every champion has score high last few years. Last year playoffs were high scoring. No lower scoring team would have stood a chance. Well, I'll tell you that Baltimore team would have. The 60 Packers would have. And the 70 Steelers would have. 70 Steelers beat the Raiders, 10-7 in that, 16-10 in that ice bowl in Pittsburgh in 74. And didn't bother anybody. I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say. KC, what was that Super Bowl? Who did they play? Philadelphia. Well, you had 2 over teams playing. Of course, you're going to get a high scoring. But when they played the Rams, it wasn't high scoring. When they played the Niners, it wasn't that high scoring. It's the type of team. The Cincinnati KC game was 24-21. I don't call that high scoring. All right. So Egon is listening to me. So I had a chance to listen to Egon and Mark McGuire yesterday. And Egon he's definitely listening to me. He says, I know I'm boring. I know I say the same thing. And I've left that comment to him. Like, the problem is he gets to the systemic problem. The money's printed, gold will go up, it'll take time. He keeps thinking it's going to take a long time or it'll take a year or 2. And I keep thinking, no, it won't, because when everybody wants to run off the boat together, the frenzy's going to happen. And then he brought up his old fill the stadium 1 drop at a time. It's gonna fill. It's gonna fill. It takes 50 minutes to fill. The first 45 minutes, there's 7% of water, and then the next 5 or 7 minutes, it gets 100%. So it does that. So I think we're about to see that. So let's see, where's all right, let's get a little alligator in. There, Egan.
Well, it's hard to believe that they don't understand, and it's hard to believe that the advisors, whoever they are, 2 wars at the moment. Do you think that we've overextended ourselves? And do you think America can afford this commitment, financial commitment? And Joe Biden looked at him and said, and he looked astonished that he'd been asked the question. He said, "My dear man, you're talking about the United States of America. Nothing is too big for us." And I thought, is that arrogance? I mean,
stupidity,
the ultimate level of arrogance. And I thought, so is it just arrogance that's causing them to continue to spend at this level, or is it that they're just not smart enough? What is it, or they just don't understand, or is it all of those things? I mean, what are your thoughts there? Well, it's hard to believe that they don't understand, and it's hard to believe that the advisors, whoever they are, because Biden has no thoughts of his own at this point, sadly. He's being totally directed by a team behind him, and that's a wonderful way to run a country, because you can put any words into the mouth of the leader. I mean, I'm not criticizing Biden. We all reach a point when we're too old, and me, I'm getting closer also. Hopefully my wife or my team in business will tell me that's it, we'll turn off the camera. Not yet, Aeon, not yet. Nobody's said anything yet, but it might be closer than I think. But that's sad. And at least the last person, or the first who should say it, is your wife, if you have a wife, of course. But so Biden is not running the country, as we all know, and he has a team, a power-hungry team behind him, of many neo-conservatives that are directing the policy. And they don't give a damn about this debt. They will, just because they know that they can't do anything else. There's no other solution, as von Mises said. It's the only solution short term is to print more money, and the only outcome without fail throughout history is a collapse of the system. And they must know that, but every leader and every of a country, or every central bank head, all they hope to do is just pass the baton to the next one and leave without having failed. And of course, as we know, all of these figures in history, nobody will remember them afterwards anyway. And so and again, if we look at history, there is no economy or based on fiat.
All right, Chris, we'll get to it in a minute.
Survived in history, and we know the Romans, for example, between 170 and 280, the denarius went from 100% silver content to 0% silver content. So that was that was the way of debasing currencies in those days. Just taking out the precious metal and just filling it with zinc or copper, whatever. And so if any leader studies history, he knows that'll be the case. But I sadly, when you're desperate and you only have one solution, which is to print money, and it's worked. It's worked for 50 years or more in this monetary era. So they hope that it's going to work for another few years until somebody else takes over and can be blamed. It's as simple as that. They're buying votes because there is no way whatsoever that any leader in the Western world is going to cut down expenses on expenses. It's just they know that there'll be they'll be voted out straight away. So we will see. They know about it, but they have no other solution, and they will do what every leader or every government has done in history. They will destroy the economy through the destruction, through debt and destruction of the money system. But this time, it's the whole world. It's not just the U.S. because it's the same in Western Europe. It's the same. Even China is suffering. I think they can deal with it better because they're suffering even now. But they can deal with it better because it's mostly internal. They don't have any external debt. So I think they will come out with better than anybody else, but they will certainly also have a tough time, especially if world trade is now anyway under pressure with the sanctions. I mean, sanctions are the most ludicrous measure ever for the prosperity of the world economy. They don't work. Number one. Number two, if you take the Roman Empire, which prospered for hundreds of years, and during that time, I mean, the countries were warring continuously, but there was never any sanction. There was free trade across the whole of the empire and outside into the empire and out of the empire, and that's what made it prosperous. But now to sanction, the trade in the world is the worst thing that can happen. So that will precipitate the fall, of course. Yeah. So I'm just my, as you know, way of looking at the world economy is to look at risk, and I think risk is unprecedented. I think we're getting into final stage. I think the consequences will be dire, as they always are when a monetary system collapses and a debt system collapses, and because it's not just that everybody will have horrible times financially, but also we will have a lot of social unrest. Wars will continue. I don't think any of these wars will stop quickly. We now have the start of again another war, Arab world against the West, against America, basically, and of course the Arab world is backed by Russia also, and probably China. So we will have geopolitical conflicts, and we will have, sadly, a lot of internal strife in countries. We're seeing now social unrest starting, with and of course the migration problem in many parts of the world, America, Europe, etc., will also mean that the rise of which we're seeing already of right-wing elements, or they're not really political, they're really more hooligans. Which will, but we will see Nazi parties coming up and fighting against the immigrants, because and especially if times become a bit more difficult, because the immigrants will be blamed, and of course Western Europe, like America, is taking on a lot more immigrants than they can cope with. And that's where we'll see these people who are poor and they find it difficult to make ends meet, and therefore we get a lot of crime now also, and that will increase. So we're I mean, as I said, I don't like to be pessimistic, but this is what I see, and we should just be prepared for it. At the same time, I always say, we've got to look after ourselves and our families and enjoy life on a daily basis. But it's going to be a very tough time, and nobody, if you and we read the press, etc. Of course, nobody talks about this because nobody expects it, and nobody dares to publish it anyway.
No.
So that's as I said, I'm pretty boring.
Oh, yeah, this is my life.
I've been saying this to be the outcome, and it's taken long, but anyway, it's on its way, and it's definitely accelerating now. Yeah.
See, that was my comment to him. You just keep saying the same thing. We get it, but he doesn't COMEX is blowing up or something. All right, let me get to Let's try this question.
Switch to Google Fi Wireless today and start your phone plan right away. It's quick and easy and affordable.
Way back in 1971, when Nixon took America off the gold standard, the Chinese saw it coming then. They knew what was going to happen. And you made a few references to this to back up your comments. Could you please just share that with our audience?
Yes. Well, so this was was the official paper for the Chinese government.
Yeah.
And where they, which is so interesting, they declared basically that this is the end of the monetary system, and the dollar as its prop or leader, and we're going to see a decline of the whole Western financial system. I mean, they made that statement so clearly, and you or I could have made it, but they made this 50 years ago, before that had even gone up. I mean, they saw what was coming, and I think that is, in the West we have no statesman.
See, that's the key. As soon as you take your money off of gold, if you have no gold, you lose. I mean, that's the way from the Romans all the way. You must have your gold-backed currency or gold in your currency to protect it. And as soon as you go goldless, you're fucked. Somehow it's lasted this long, but you can see everything's worth nothing.
Whatsoever as leaders today. Sadly, the people get what they deserve. And right now we have, bad times when it comes to morals and values, etc. And we get bad leaders, and bad leaders take bad decisions, and nobody, the Chinese can afford to tell the truth because they don't have a democratic system, or they're not elected. And sometimes that is an advantage, because you could clearly run an economy in a much more responsible way if the leaders are that way inclined, because they don't need to please the people on a daily basis to buy votes. The Chinese could never have fed a population of what now 1.3 billion, and everyone is, from what I understand, or has been, well fed in China. And that could never have happened in a Western system. You had so many poor people. So, sadly, sometimes these centralized states, they work better to improve the standard of the whole population. Now, of course, they're becoming more westernized, and that will lead to its own problems, but still very much centrally controlled. But this is sometimes, we always talk about, or I do, certainly many of us, that a benevolent dictator is really the best way to run a country. But sadly, benevolent dictators, all of a sudden become too powerful and they forget about their benevolence. And so therefore it only works for shorter periods. But nevertheless, China, but the West has no statesman, not a single one. There's not a single leader of any quality whatsoever. I would say, and I'm not an admirer of him and all that, I would say Putin is probably one of the more consistent leaders. Okay, we don't like their values, but at least that Russia, in spite of the enormous pressures that the country is under, the economy is held together because of strong leadership, whether we like it or not. But that's a fact.
Very well. They lack leadership skills and business skills. I mean, very few of them have significant business backgrounds. And I mean, we spoke to a group of farmers the other night and said every single one of those people would probably make a better prime minister than the one we've got right now. Because they've been in business, they know the difference between profit and loss. They know what a surplus is and they know what a deficit is. These guys have got no idea, have they?
No, and that's very, very, very true. They're just so much more practical people. Yeah.
Before
Yeah,
we
but the
leave,
problem is power corrupts, of course, and when you become a leader, if you're not a dictator in a communist country, then you in the end you just end up buying votes instead.
yes.
But this is why the Swiss system is actually the best political system in the world, because there you have people power in the way that government is really doesn't decide much in Switzerland. You have a coalition government of seven cabinet members from various parties, but you have direct democracy in Switzerland. Almost any issue that the country or the people want to change or don't agree with, they just create a list or send out a petition for a referendum, and as long as you get 100,000 signatures, you can hold a referendum on anything you want in Switzerland. Yeah. And what is the most interesting thing is, and that could be taking part in the war, it can be the price of sugar, it could be anything. Minarets was a very famous example that they actually banned minarets in Switzerland, and that was an initiative from the people. And this was many years ago. But and once if that issue that was brought up, if that wins the referendum, it becomes part of the Swiss constitution, which means it cannot be changed by government, cannot be changed by parliament, and it can only be changed by another referendum. And that is real democracy. I mean, the people also become then more responsible, because, for example, there was the referendum on minimum pay, etc. And the people said no to a high minimum pay because then they understand the consequences when they themselves are actually the ones who decide. And I think therefore the country becomes more responsible when the people is involved in these decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Before we leave this little, the information we've been talking about, I only thought about it. It's not even written on my notes here, but the election of the Argentinian leader just recently, supposedly a libertarian. How do you feel Argentina is going to go? How do you feel that the new government? What's it going to be different from the old Argentina? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Experience the magic and share the joy at Disney's Frozen. The spectacular
government. What's it going to be different from the old Argentina? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have a bit, of course, and Doug Case has just written about it. He lives partly in Argentina and Uruguay, but as we both know, or all know, the Argentina was one of the strongest economies in the world 100 years ago, with natural resources and well managed. But then came, sadly, governments that destroyed the country totally, government after government. And now, if this is a very positive sign, is the world ready for it? Well, it seems like it's ready because it's not the only country. You have Holland is the same, in the Netherlands. You have somebody who is anti-immigration, anti-EU, etc., who won the election. But sadly, it's a minority situation because there's not he doesn't have total majority, and he will have problems. Wilders, isn't it?
All right. Well, enough of that. Anyway, that's what's going on with Egon. He does talk about the trying to get a gold standard in Europe earlier in the tape. I'll try to find that for tomorrow. But yeah, it's ready to blow. pretty soon. He doesn't give an exact date or time, but he does say that. We can do Mark McGuire tomorrow. He had, it was without a guest, so it's a little more interesting. He gets more to the basic. The ones with the guests are not worth listening to, but I'm not going to go through that now. So, college football, Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. I don't think you have the best 4 teams in there. I think Oregon and Georgia and Oregon, Georgia, maybe Michigan. I'm not quite sure. And then Texas, I don't know. Where's maybe. We'll give Texas because they beat Alabama. I think Florida State and Georgia and Oregon should be in there. They're better than these teams. I don't find Michigan to be good. They haven't beaten anybody. See, you want to take Florida State out because their quarterback's injured, but you want to put Michigan in when they haven't played a good team except one team. They've had one game against Ohio State, and they won by 6. And you want to put them in. Oh, and they beat the good Iowa team, who talk about a team without a quarterback. So how is Iowa different than Florida State, except for they have a better coach? But this is the problem with the whole thing. There's no call. It's like me picking games without. What do I tell you? Why do I pick the game? Why do I like this team over that team? And that's really what you're trying to do. You have some sort of procedure and you have some sort of reasoning why you pick the games. Why did I take Denver? They're the better team and they're the underdog. Anytime I get the better team as the underdog, I bet it. So the question comes into they don't have a system to pick this, to create this playoff. You cannot leave Florida State out and call it a real playoff. You can't leave Oregon out. And you certainly can't leave Georgia out. Oh, a big deal. Alabama beat them by 3. Big fucking deal. What is that? They got lucky. They lost. They lost to Auburn, or they only beat Auburn by 3. Does that make them a better team? Because at least they won. I mean, what kind of fucked up thing is that? New Mexico State beat Auburn by 31-10. Where's New Mexico State? I mean, it makes no sense. So I don't buy that. I think it's a terrible playoff. Of those 4, I would bet Alabama wins because they'll cheat. They won't call offensive interference on them. They'll give them every break in the book. I think Alabama wins. I think Michigan's a joke. I think Texas lost to Oklahoma. Washington, okay, they beat Oregon. I still think Oregon, Georgia, Oklahoma, and maybe Ohio State. Well, let's give Michigan, but again, they haven't played anybody. So Ohio State doesn't get any credit for beating Notre Dame, but Alabama gets credit for beating Georgia, but losing to Texas. I mean, it's such bullshit. Georgia didn't lose to Texas. Why isn't Georgia in there? Georgia's the best team, so it's a bullshit playoff made so Alabama can win. This is all. These teams are so weak. The system is not flawed. The problem with the system is they only have 4 teams when they got 10 good ones. In pros, you win your division, you're in. So there's a system. You win your division. There's 4 winners, and then the 3 next teams are wild cards that are all in. That's how the NFL works. So it's not a vote. It's you win, you're in. Why isn't college like that? So if you have 5 conferences, then you have 5 winners, and then you can have 3 wild cards. What would you have done if Notre Dame was undefeated? They beat USC. If they'd have beaten Ohio State and not lost to Louisville, I mean, so, Florida State really gets fucked because Louisville beat Notre Dame and Duke, and they beat them, and they get no credit. They didn't lose a fucking game, and they're not in this to a 1-loss Alabama and a 1-loss Texas. and Michigan, who played absolutely the worst schedule. So you're rewarding Michigan for playing the loser's schedule. And we didn't know how they were until they played Ohio State. We had no idea who they were. Beating Penn State. Penn State's not that good. Beating Maryland. Maryland sucked, lost to Illinois. So they beat Ohio State. So they played one game and won. And you want to call them, it's just they were rewarded for playing a shit schedule when where Oregon had to play Washington and Oregon State and Washington State and USC and UCLA and Colorado. They don't get rewarded because they lost 2 games to Washington, even though they beat Colorado, USC, and these other teams. That's the problem. You should give points for wins. So Michigan would get 1 point. They beat Ohio State, and Oregon would have had 10 points for winning those, and Washington gets 11 points. And when you look at the points at the end, Alabama wouldn't be in, and Texas should. Washington, yeah, but Michigan shouldn't be in. You should have Oregon and Georgia in there also, and it shouldn't be 4 teams. That's the problem with this. Oh, we'll vote. No, you should. Where's Boise and SMU? Why aren't they in there? They won their conferences. So that's like saying in the NFL, well, Jacksonville, you don't deserve to be in because your division sucks. And by the way, whoever wins Atlanta, New Orleans, you shouldn't be in it because you suck. Your division sucks. So where's Boise and SMU? They deserve to be in there. They won their conferences. And then what's the point of the whole thing yesterday? If Iowa would have won, would they have been in the playoff? No. Why not? They won. They won the Big Ten. They should be in. Otherwise, why are you playing the game? There's no reason. So there is no system, Greg and John. And Georgia being out, it's not, you're not even going to, they're the best team. You're not even going to get the best team in there. It's ridiculous. It's a stupid playoff. Even if you're doing it for money, then where's Oklahoma and Oregon? I mean, then Washington's not going to generate money. Michigan, okay. Texas, they're not going to generate. And it's all Alabama. Even with 5 losses, Alabama would get in because they're Alabama, which I got problems with Alabama anyway. But it's a stupid system. But it's no better than the money printing and the government. So, Greg and John, have your people watch yesterday's video, and then they can tell us we're crazy. They need to watch and understand. They don't understand. They don't, Again, Egon just told you it's all going broke, and you got to own gold. It's your only out. That's not from me. That's from Egon. But it is from me because that's what I know that also. But it's a stupid system. Well, it's like the dollar. They print money and then it goes to zero. Well, that system's not good either. But you get away from the system by buying gold and silver. That's the point of buying gold and silver, is to get out of the stupid system. How many teams should be in the college thing? Well, you got 7, 8 divisions. So each division winner should be in it. And then you have probably 5 or 6 wild cards because you're going to have an Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon, Washington. How is Oregon not in this? How is Georgia not in this? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It's the stupidest system. Why is Alabama in? They lost to Texas. I mean, just because they beat Georgia, they're in, but they lost to Texas doesn't count. And wait a minute, they played Auburn. They only won by 3. Well, that doesn't count. That's ridiculous. Georgia beat Tennessee. Georgia beat Missouri. They should be in. They beat everybody else. So it's really ridiculous. Ohio State beats Notre Dame. Ohio State beats Penn State. I think they had one other, Wisconsin. So they get no credit for that. And then it's really, so all your division winners should automatically, there shouldn't be a debate, get in. So in this case, if Alabama wins, they should be in, but then so should Georgia. Washington's in, so should Oregon. Texas is in, so should Kansas, or Oak State should be in also. And then Michigan, Ohio State should be in. Florida State. How do you leave Florida State out is a fucking joke. I can't take it serious without Florida State and Georgia being in. And Oregon, it's not. You're never going to get the best, a national champ. And so it all, the top 12 is probably good if they do that correctly. But it's got to be. The division winners have to be rewarded like in the NFL. And you can't say, well, SMU doesn't count, and what Troy won, they don't count. And what was the other one? Boise, well, they don't count. Why don't they count? They won their league. They play good teams. I mean, it's just same thing here. The Florida State quarterback. Well, that's bull. You don't know what he can do. You don't know how good he is. So it's just Alabama should not be in this playoff. They don't deserve it. Florida State should be ahead of them. Okay, Michigan and Washington didn't lose. Washington played a real schedule and beat Oregon twice. Michigan does not deserve to be in either. I can see Washington and Texas, and then it would be Florida State, and then either Georgia or Oregon should be in there. Oh, Oregon lost twice to Washington. So what? New England, when they were with Brady, they didn't go undefeated. They had 1 year, but Frisco plays Philly. Somebody's going to lose. Oh my God, they can't be in the playoff because Philly lost to Frisco, so they can't be in the playoff. What the fuck? That's just retarded. So yeah, the system's bad, but I don't care. It's what's the point of the playoff? If the point of the playoff is to get the best team, they're not even close this year. You can't leave Florida State and Georgia out and call it a playoff and say we've got the best team in there in Oregon the way they looked. So if Oregon looks good 1 week, beating Colorado 44-6 and loses by 2 points to Washington, they're not very good. Or they kill USC, they're not very good. Well, wait a minute, you can't. What was the point of playing Colorado and USC then? You're not giving them any credit for winning those games. Alabama lost to Texas, so you're giving Texas credit, and then Texas lost to Oklahoma. Wait, Texas lost to Oklahoma. Georgia lost to Alabama, so that's a better loss than Texas losing to Oklahoma. So therefore, Oklahoma lost 2 games, so Georgia should be ahead of Texas. We can use that stupid logic all day, but clearly it should be the regular season. This whole conference championship is bullshit. You should have had Georgia and Alabama, and Georgia has to be in. They're the best team, and you go from there. But, it's a matchup thing. They can't handle a running quarterback. They had trouble with Daniels last year. They had trouble with Ohio State. But they killed TCU, so it's all a matter of that. They killed Texas. They should have ran the same defense, so I don't know why they didn't run the defense against Milrose. They made him look like a good quarterback, and he sucks. Let's go Meadows. They should all go by gold and silver. Well, that's what we do, Bobby Bo. But yeah, so Egon, it's all going to go through the roof very soon. He gave the stadium thing yesterday where he said, he gave the stadium thing yesterday where he said that, for 45 minutes, the stadium's 7% full, and then the last 5 minutes it fills up. And that's my argument with gold. It's going up, and then that's why I say it's going to go from 2,000 to 20,000. It's going to go nickel dime, and then all of a sudden it'll be 7%. All of a sudden it'll go to 100. So it'll be 2, 3, 4, and then it explodes to 20. But we got to get rid of the inflation of the paper gold. They're inflating it by pretending there's a lot of supply of gold that there isn't. That's why the physical gold, you can't inflate it, but the paper gold they can, and see what happens, right? They inflate the paper gold to keep the price down. You're inflating this, but they're losing value on it, but they're not saying it. So the value of this is nothing, because the same theory that they print the gold with derivatives to keep the price down. When they print this, it makes this worthless. And that's really what happens, and that's what's happening. So, yeah, metals are the only way. They're the only out. There is no paper to go to. And once the whole world gets into metals, like you said, there's billions of people in China, and they're all buying gold. The government wants them to buy gold. See, China understands what happened to Rome, and they understand in the U.S., as soon as you get off of gold, your money's worthless. Well, they understood that in 71. I didn't have the education until the 90s to understand that, but I understood it in the 90s. Real guys, that's when I bought this. So that's what you realize is the dollar's worthless when it's not backed by anything. And then you just go to the Roman Empire and go, yep, there it is. That's what they did. So you realize that and understand that. So with that said, China's been buying gold, and Russia understands that too. And you can see what's happening. It's all blowing up because, as he said, there's leaderless. There's nobody in charge. Biden doesn't know what day it is. He's being run by the Chinese. They gave him the money. Believe me, they gave him $5-10 million for some reason, right? Who benefits from a low gold price? China and Russia. That's why it's still being done. JP Morgan isn't doing it for the hell of it. They're price fixing it because China and Russia are saying price fix it. Because we want to buy more, because you guys are too stupid to buy it, and we want to buy it because we know it's the only out. So that's what's happening. So yeah, Chris, yeah, Michigan, Washington, yeah, that's a joke. Anyway, what else? So that's really it. It's buy your gold and silver. You probably have till Christmas, as much as you can, and then you do the bridge. And I had a great idea. I think I told you yesterday, but I'll repeat it. So I was worried. I wanted to make my money last while I'm not working. I'm a little bit short each month, so I'm thinking I don't want to pull all the money from the safe. I want to keep enough until gold goes up, and then I won't need it. And so one idea I had was to charge my groceries and my gas about $400 a month, because I'm going to pay $400 on the credit cards. So if I charge $400, that means that's money I don't spend that I can leave in the safe. And then the money I get from Social Security, I can then apply to the credit card, and it'll wash because I'm not worried about paying the credit card off. As long as I make my payment, my credit will be good. So if my credit, let's say it's $2,000. And I buy $500 worth of food and groceries and gas and whatever. And then I pay $500 on the credit card instead of the food. Well, the credit card's still $2,000. And the $500 that I would have paid on the food on my debit card, I then use to pay the credit card so I don't take it out of the safe. So I thought it was a wonderful idea. I was when I get stressed, I do think well. And so if you're ever worried about money, use your credit card, because you're going to pay your credit card anyway, right? If your credit card has a balance on it, don't worry about paying it off. That's not the issue here. The issue is just making the payment. So if you're running out of cash, then don't use the debit card to go to the grocery store. Use your credit, and then you're going to pay your credit card anyway, and then it'll just be a wash. You're not trying to pay it off. You're buying time for the gold to go up. So you've got to have gold and silver to do this, where you're waiting for the gold to hit 20,000. And then if you need to, you sell an ounce of gold for 20 grand. And you're like, oh, okay. That's the whole idea. So all I'm trying to do is stay afloat until the gold goes up. I figure I need probably 6 months, but let's say a year. Let's say it takes a year for it to finally hit 10, 15 grand as the dollar goes out. And who knows when that's going to happen. It's probably sooner than later. I don't like when these guys say, oh, it'll, look what's happening, the Basel 3, and then the whole year goes and it's still sitting at 2,100. And they're all full of shit, but we know what's happening. They're running. They got to run out of gold once China and Russia buy it all. Then the prices will zoom. So we just have a little bit of waiting, but they mislead us into thinking it because they're all selling gold. And that's what you got to be careful about, is like Peter Schiff, who his job is to sell the gold. So he's going to make you want it by coming up with the song and dance that, oh, you better buy it now. And then you buy it, and then you're still waiting because he's lying to you. He's just cheating you. He's doing a Madoff. That's why I tell you, avoid the Peter Schiffs and the Rick Rudes and the Andy Wexmans and all these guys. They're all just salesmen. They're not economists, and they're trying to get you to buy gold because that's their job. I'm not trying to sell you gold, because that's not my job, is to sell you gold. My job is to protect you. So that's what I'm doing. But waiting to hear on that one contract job. We'll see about that. I applied Wednesday, so I'm hoping to hear tomorrow something. And then that'll be it. So getting ready for Christmas and New Year's, and that's it. So we got football today, and then we'll start looking at the bowl games. I think they'll be out pretty soon. Again, $100 for all the bowl games, $200 if you want all the bowl games and all the NFL till the Super Bowl. That's what we're looking at. So anyway, free game today is Denver. I did take the over in the Niner-Philly game because I think it'll be high scoring, because Philly's really not an under team. They give up 22, but look at the Buffalo game. It was a 60-point. Frisco will score on them early and often, but I think with the Madoff push, Philly, I'm not looking at Philly being shut out by Frisco. It's always scary against that defense, but look at the Dallas defense, the 17, Seattle put up 35. So just, you got a strong defense. It really works against an under team. So if Cleveland were playing Frisco, they'd probably shut them out. When you get an offense like Philadelphia or Dallas or even Seattle here, for Seattle to put up 35 on Dallas, it's not going to surprise me if Philly puts up 35 on the Niners, and the Niners put up 35 on Philadelphia. So that's where I'm learning, is like the Oregon-Washington game, where even though they both have strong defenses, if you have strong offenses, they still score on you. It's only like the Florida State-Louisville type of games, quarterbacks out, so their offenses are going to struggle and the defenses are so strong. So anyway, that's it. Anything else? Anybody? Yeah, there's Mark McGuire. I could play some if you want. For you, Bobby, I'll play a little bit of Mark McGuire.
Hey, Dr. Drew, my wife Susan here. We want to show you something. You've probably seen this guy all over your feed.
It's plain and simple. Physical gold is the only globally accepted financial asset that can't be printed.
They now have to keep printing or we crash.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Isn't that what I say?
Treasuries. Now, the same blinkered, led by the nose COMEX-centric speculators are about to enter 2024 trading completely oblivious to the upside gold price revaluation risks that threaten the very existence of the only non-NSFR compliant market they are deliberately constrained to operate in, the COMEX casino. And we've always kept an eye on how many speculators have been led by the nose to be subjected to irregular Fed-controlled wash and rinse cycles that we've been drawing attention to.
I can't. I'm going to go bike and then I'm going to hot tub, but the pool's closed because they're having like a swim meet there. So it's the City of Livonia Rec Center, and then I guess the other rec centers or other compete. So once every quarter or so, there's a swim meet. It goes Friday night through Sunday. So Friday I swam in the morning. Yesterday I was in the shallower pool and the hot tub, and it won't be ready today. So I'll go when we're done here. I'll go ride the bike and then go in the hot tub. So I'll do that. And so, yeah, I am. So I will do the swim. And that's, that's about it. I made like the ribs yesterday, but it was good. I got ribs that didn't have the bone on it where I go. So I went and bought like hamburgers at $4 a pound, the 81%, and then I bought some chicken, and I paid with the credit card. So I'm like stocking up because I know they're on sale, and then for the next month I won't have to go grocery shopping. So I'm just trying to wait. Basically, going trying to keep the money in the safe, waiting for a job already, which probably won't happen till January. Maybe I'll get this one at the bank, but I don't know. Otherwise, I'll hopefully get something in January. I always seem to get a job in a few months because of my skill set. I've got a lot of good experience, and I got a master's, and especially contract work. They'll take me, and if I don't work out, they let me go. But I always work out because I'm smart. But I don't care if it's contract or permanent, because I just want to get paid to buy gold. So that's the thing. So yeah, I'll be going shortly. Let's do a little more Mark McGuire, and then I'll get out of here.
But an increasing number of these speculators have become sticky and unable to be rinsed. And we've been really drawing a lot of attention to why that is. And with bonds increasingly being viewed by commodity trading advisors, the professionals, as an unreliable hedge for risk assets into a Fed, because while the Fed is spinning higher for longer, this mantra really creates an unreliable hedging situation. Gold is seriously competing with bonds as an asset class, severely dislocating long-standing historical correlations. And this will make CTA COMEX longs increasingly sticky, reducing the fuel to trigger the officially driven downside gap close attempts, which we have seen multiple attempts of in 2023. Now, the revaluation drivers are now front and center as we enter 2024 trading, and even putting the grossly out of kilter physical supply-demand imbalances aside for the moment, as we previously highlighted, as a result of an out-of-control reactive Fed, every single Western global central bank is operating at a loss, as unfactored, steeply higher interest rates have been driving bond yields into unfactored highs, with the realization that the interest cost on fresh bond issuances has now become the single largest government outlay. Hardly an equitable situation. And as we reported last time, in order to just maintain the status quo, the Fed alone has to issue a minimum of 1.784 trillion of newly issued treasuries in 2024. But as we've been drawing attention to, Goldman, amongst others, and Goldman is a strong ally of the BIS, began openly questioning if there would be sufficient buyers of this fresh debt issuance. And given that physical gold provides global central banks and sovereigns and institutions an alternative zero risk liquid alternative to high risk treasuries, which relies solely on faith, it is no surprise we are evidencing the largest reported central bank gold buying alongside such even larger unreported monetary gold purchases during 2023.
So if you're asking, is there demand for gold? He just said it's the highest demand they've ever had. So again, I can only sell this if I have a market for it. So if nobody wants to buy it, I can't sell it. There's no market. But if I try to sell it and Bobby says, I'll give you 100 for it, that's a market. I have a buyer. Gold, the reason always has a value is there's always a buyer for it. And now with this huge demand, does it make it sense that the value has not gone up? Well, we got huge demand. We got all the central banks buying it. Why isn't the price going up? See, that's the question, because they're trying to inflate using paper, because you can't inflate gold because you can't print gold. it comes out of the ground. You can make the coins, but you can only make so many coins. There's only 250,000 tons of it, which is not a lot when you consider that Russia and China have 100,000 tons of it. There's 150,000 tons left, minus probably 75 that the central banks in Europe and Asia already have. So there's not a lot when you consider all the people who want, all the central banks who want it. And then you understand why the price is low, because the people buying it want to, of course, pay for less. Why wouldn't you want gold at 2,000? Why would you want 10,000 for it? But once it's all bought, then everybody wants the price to go up. And that's where we're getting very close to that. So the stadium and the Egon's, the stadium's filling with water. At the last 5 minutes, it goes from 7% to 100. And that's what's happening here. We're at like the final 10 minutes where it's creeping up. And then, but see, in my mind, it's not going to go 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It's going to go 2 to 10 to 20, because once it explodes and once people realize and they go, why is gold going up? And then people realize because the dollar's worthless. Once people get that point, then everybody runs to buy it. The price goes through the roof. So why would anybody use the COMEX price? That's what I keep saying. Why isn't there a physical price? What the fuck's going on that there isn't a physical price? Because you can't inflate gold. That's the beauty of it. You can't print it. What the Romans did was took the gold out of the coins, right? But that's how you can inflate the coins, by taking the gold and silver out. But they didn't print more gold and silver. They used zinc and whatever brass to make the coins instead of the gold and silver. However, in this case, you can't print, like you can print dollars with the printing press. You can't print gold. And they understand that. So what do? They print derivatives to keep the price down, as opposed to printing, because you can't print the gold. So that's why the gold has demand, and you can't inflate it. You can't make more of it. So it's limited and high demand. So the price should be through the roof at this point. Should be at least 20 to 30,000, at least minimum, because once it's going, then all the frenzy happens and everybody jumps into it. And that's what we're waiting for. And that's coming. That's what's coming soon. So with that said, let's do a little bit more Mark McGuire.
And it's plain and simple. Physical gold is the only globally accepted financial asset that can't be printed. And these unprecedented
he's listening to me, right?
Accumulations that we've been witnessing since the BIS covered all of its gold derivative positions 1 year ago in November. Remember? Over $400 lower. At 1618 is where they finally covered. These institutionally driven real asset accumulations are in preparation to revalue gold, just as US Treasury supply meets buyer resistance. Now, to answer some very, very focused subscriber questions on the economic effects of a gold price reset, these freshly bolstered gold revaluation accounts will provide global central banks the ability to recapitalize Treasury accounts and to square up public debt.
Hey, Andrew, how do you see things playing out here?
These gold price revaluations will likely roll out alongside quantitative easing, further driving the gold price higher, and it will be a necessary component of squaring government bonds, in turn driving the gold price support levels well above the estimated plus minus 2,000 gold revaluation point. We think that will be the level where the revaluation will happen. And following a revaluation, it will benefit central banks to seek a stable, higher gold price against their respective currencies. Now, gold in every other foreign exchange currency has taken out prior highs during 2023. So everyone's been focusing on the dollar. But look at the bigger global picture, and you'll see that the gold has risen everywhere. So the only question is, how will the dollar-denominated gold price revaluation impact the only remaining known NSFR-compliant global gold exchange, the COMEX? Now, there's a ton of questions about this. And based upon the established house structure, unbacked short COMEX futures positions really are the accepted mechanism for hedging asymmetric gold and silver structures, as well as the tool, of course, to naked short, after being chart painted, these synthetic structures. And therein lays the problem for the speculators, who are being set up as the patsies into an unfactored central bank driven gold price revaluation, which, depending on which of the revaluation sequences, and we'll look at those as they roll out, we'll look at those. And obviously, until the dust settles, it will enormously widen the COMEX bid-ask spreads as established algo-driven pricing models relying on really the legacy paper market liquidity seizes up. The paper market liquidity will just not be sufficient. And while differing from the $100 bid-ask spreads that we evidenced after COVID shuttered the refineries back in March 2020, that forced the physical on offer to dry up to a bid-only market, there are two drivers that could set up a disruptive bid-ask price dislocation again. The first one relates directly to the 10 times larger than COMEX over-the-counter foreign exchange markets. Now, while first-year market-making insiders providing liquidity to the over-the-counter FX gold markets are one-to-one Basel III NSFR compliant and will be fully geared up for such a physically driven gold revaluation announcement, there are some second and third-tier liquidity providers alongside higher-risk institutional traders who are still reported to be leveraging their fully backed over-the-counter physical holdings with very lopsided leveraged short COMEX bets. In other words,
so what he's saying is they're going to revalue gold instead of letting the market do it. So our assumption is let the market price the gold, and they're going to do this valuation because of the debt. They're saying, well, how do we get rid of the debt? Well, we can make gold worth more. So anyway you look at it, gold price will go up. Unfortunately, it's not totally market driven. The derivatives go up like at 2100. It's just paper. That's not market driven. But even there, nobody's stupid enough to start shorting it. And the shorts are going to lose billions of dollars because if you short gold and it goes up, you can't get out of your option. You're fucked. So that's kind of what's happening. So I don't want to go through the whole Mark McGuire thing because he gets too technical and like, what are you talking about, Mark? But anyway, I think there's one more. I wanted to.
Attack by competing central banks taking advantage of this discounted loophole.
Hey, Andrew, we've had some questions on how the COMEX will deal with this sudden gold and silver price revaluation. Can you refresh our new subscribers and our new community members as to how this may play out?
Yes, Shane. Really glad to. And to add a little color, the COMEX prepared to defend such an event all the way back. Oh, this was after the presidential meeting of the too big to fail bullion banks back in 2013. And this is when the CME gold market price limit holds were implemented. Namely, you've got the 5-minute holds for futures and a 3-minute hold for options. However, while the COMEX traders are captive to these circuit breaker holds, the 10 times larger over-the-counter compliant and SFR compliant over-the-counter FX gold markets are not frozen, providing the same CME LBMA market makers privileged to secure a foot in each market the ability to position long through these COMEX holds into a bid-only foreign exchange gold market. Now, the scope of being able to do this is actually constrained to the degree they can secure enough physical to actually back those positions up, which ironically further forces the offer to sell physical gold to dry up, exacerbating this condition. And it's important to understand the mechanics of this. So to sum up, into a 5-minute COMEX market hold, the 10 times larger spot gold market will continue to go bid only, and every subsequent CME market reopen will be followed by another halt. Clearly, it's a bid-only market with initial bid-ask disruptions. They won't be dissimilar to when the bid to cover COMEX shorts went bid-only back in March 2020, but dissimilar because this time it won't need to be resolved by way of a too-big-to-fail bailout, because these insiders are now NSFR compliant and will be physically backed. And while the agent banks acting on behalf of the Fed will be made good by way of a Fed gold price revaluation, a real market equilibrium price will only be resolved once the offer price to sell physical gold matches real demand. And this will clearly be significantly higher than where gold is initially benchmarked by central banks revaluing gold, say at 2000. So let's look at what scenarios the oblivious COMEX speculators will encounter as soon as the first global central bank announces they have actioned their gold revaluation account. Now, bear in mind, a central bank revaluation can be actioned without notice, with the central bank simply selling existing gold reserves and then immediately rebuying them back at market, which is in effect simply a book entry that capitalizes on the price difference. Therefore, no warning is likely to be issued. And while these pre-valuation global central bank currents standing carry costs vary enormously, right now they're all well below the current market price. And in the aggregate, liquidity providers, a tough thing to guess, but in aggregate, liquidity providers access at best estimate maybe at around $800 an ounce. However, in the case of the Fed, Treasury gold is currently valued at $42.22 per troy ounce. Now, the moment a gold price revaluation is actioned by any one Western or global South Central Bank, such as illustrated by the pragmatic recent rumblings emanating out of the Dutch Central Bank discussing such a revaluation, and that was great work by Jan Nieuwenhuis on translating their minutes. This will be conducted with the BIS already long, unencumbered gold site gold accounts, and while there will be an insider-known timeline for the gold price reset, as is the case with every central bank insider action, it won't necessarily be shared ahead of time in the general marketplace. Why would it be? And as we outlined in several recent episodes, gold is a multi-trillion-dollar liquid FX currency cross. So the moment any one of the global central banks, when they do revalue, to avert a foreign exchange currency imbalance, they'll all have to coordinate. And the Fed is not stupid. And for the rehypothecation reasons that we've outlined in real detail in recent episodes, they will have too much at stake to not also coordinate revaluing gold. And from this point onwards, it will benefit every global central bank to support the price of gold versus the agreed percentage of GDP in each jurisdiction. And it'll be a formula which they'll agree.
Hey, Andrew, you mentioned these revaluations.
So they're all going to revalue gold, all the central banks. I mean, it's at 2,100 now or 2,079. Again, I don't care for this revaluation. I just assume it goes to free market. That's what Egon wants. That's why we really don't want a gold standard per se, because we want free market gold like you have Canadian Club or my Mahomes cards, free market. It's whatever the market wants, and that's what gold should be. So I don't know what they're doing, but what Egon says too is, what does he say? He believes that they won't, they'll, well, he just doesn't want the gold standard, but because they asked him about Europe, where they're coming out with each country wants a gold standard. Oh, what he was saying is, like he's saying about the BRICS countries, where there's going to be a BRICS currency. He says, well, he doesn't understand how there can be one BRICS currency for all the countries. And I disagree with him. There's gold. Every country is going to use gold. Everybody uses gold in the world. So that's what they're going to do to come up with the value. So I don't really understand his problem with having a BRICS one currency for all these countries. I assume they'll have that, and each country will have their own currencies. But if you don't have it backed by gold, you're fucked. So I lose them there because it doesn't make sense why you can't have the one currency being gold and every country using it. So the problem is it's all corrupt, and everybody wants to be able to print dollars, right? All the mafias, all these idiots want to print dollars, and you can't print gold. And that's really the problem. That's really the bottom line of what's going on, is that the U.S. they want to just print money. I'd rather just print. I can print $1 billion. There you go. I can't do it with gold. They're too stupid to understand. Just make the gold price go up. And instead of printing money, just make the gold price. So that's really what the problem is. But what they don't understand is you can't keep printing. You can't keep printing and printing and printing. It goes to zero. You can't hit an iceberg and the water comes in. You can't keep going. You're going to sink. And that's what's happening. So we understand they can't keep printing. But they don't understand that. So they think, well, just keep printing and that everything will be fine. And that's not what happens. So, that's why I play Egon, Greg, and John, because then your little family can listen to him and listen to me and understand that we're not crazy, that if they want to survive, the only way to survive is with gold and silver, not money, because money gets printed to zero. It's not backed by anything. It's not worth anything. The gold and silver is, because you can't print it. So the bottom line is gold and silver cannot be printed. That's why it always has a value, and that's why people like it, as well as it's shiny and pretty and it looks nice and it's durable. You can't do anything to gold. You can't burn it. You can't freeze it. You can't do anything. Gold is always you put it in the bottom of the ocean. You find a pirate ship, it's full of gold. The gold's still gold. It can't be destroyed, heated, iced, or anything. So, and it's very pretty. So everything is, there's always demand for gold, and it's at a low price. And it's just like anything else. If you can get steaks for 25 cents, you're going to buy them. If the steaks cost $20, it's a little bit expensive. You might not. And that's really what it is. So in this situation, they're keeping gold cheap. So there's huge demand for it. And when it hits $30,000, $40,000, then the demand, people won't be able to afford it. And that's it. They will be sorry, including my family, who are certified space cadets. They don't listen. Well, have them listen to me and the Titanic one I did, or I'll do a few more just economic ones, shorter ones. But this is, because I'm explaining to you, you understand it. You can't explain it the way I can explain it to you. And they don't take the time. See, you want to listen, right? You want to learn. That's why you're here. And when I make a comment, you go, yeah, that makes sense to you. And so you go buy gold and silver because it makes sense to, because they're printing the dollars to zero. But if your family and friends don't want to listen to it and don't want to admit, they got 200 grand, they don't want to admit it's worthless. They don't want to admit, oh shit, I got to sell it and buy gold, even though it's the right thing to do. Well, how about people that smoke cigarettes? It's poison. You're smoking poison, but they do it anyway until they get sick and then they get lung cancer. And then they go, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have done it. So even though they might know it's wrong, they don't want to admit it. Or the people that drink too much, or they eat candy and chocolate and ice and cookies and cake, and they're 600 pounds. They don't want to stop. That's about the easiest way to explain it. So why is this guy so heavy? He keeps eating ice cream and cake. Well, doesn't he know? You know, that's when I see a guy at the hot tub and he's like this, and I go, "You got diabetes. You either fast or you die," and he doesn't care. I told one guy, I can save your life, and he says, "I don't care." Either he doesn't think I can, or he doesn't want to change. And that's the problem. People are conditioned. That's what I tell you about the ribs, right? People are conditioned to pay $25 a slab for ribs. So if all of a sudden you make it $45, people won't pay it because they're conditioned to pay $25. Even though the dollar isn't worth anything, they don't know it. So you can't charge the 45 for the ribs. That's the same scenario here. Even though the dollar is worthless, they don't know. All they see is, well, gold's, see, their counter argument is, well, gold doesn't do anything. It just, you know, it goes to 2000, back to 19, back to 2, back, you know, it doesn't move. Well, if they knew what the real value of the dollar was, that it's now worth a penny, how would they think? But they don't understand. They see a $100 bill, they think it's still worth 100. It's worth what, 1%? It's worth $1. So a $100 bill is worth $1. But they don't know it's worth $1. They don't understand that it only buys a little bit of what it used to buy. That's the whole issue with it. They don't understand the dollar loses value and gold doesn't. And they don't understand the paper price of gold, not the physical price of gold. So the physical price of gold, like I say, is $20,000. Probably. I mean, that's my estimation based on my skill set, that it should go way up because of the inflation and it's being held down. That's why I say 50,000, because once you get rid of the subdued amounts, then it goes to the real amount, and the real amount has to be much higher because you've been subduing it while all this inflation's going up. Why Oreo cookies are $5 a bag? They were $2, but gold hasn't gone from 2 to 4 to 10 because it's been subdued. Well, wait a minute, what the fuck? I mean, so that's where I'm getting. It's at least 10,000, but I'm sure it's 20 to 25 if they let it go to free market. I don't know. And that's what we're hoping the Russians and Chinese are going to do, and just the market itself. Let's see. But that's the thing. They don't have a discipline to sit down and focus. They would put their attention elsewhere. They prefer to be delusional. Well, I think a lot of it is they'll have the attention for certain things. They just won't see. They don't want to believe they're wrong. So let's say they have $200,000 in their bank. They don't want to believe it's worthless. That's the problem. They don't. And then they have to go buy the gold. It's like it's such a big problem to go to the gold store and buy your gold. They won't, oh, it's too much work. So they don't want to believe they're wrong, and they don't want to do anything about it. And when it goes worthless, then it's like Madoff. It's the same thing as Madoff, Bobby. You're sitting in Madoff and you're getting a 15% return. And even though you know it can't be real, you still go, oh, this is good. I'm getting a 15% return. And, well, how am I getting this return? I shouldn't be able to get more than 5%. And Madoff just says, or don't worry, that's what you're getting. And then when it blows up, then they're all surprised going, oh, I can't believe I lost all my money because I blindly put it with Madoff and thought I would get 15%, like he knew what he was doing. And that's where I shake my head, as you would say. That's bullshit. If you would understand, see, from my standpoint, if it's a 5% market, how am I getting 15%? It's impossible. Where are you getting the 15% from? And if you can't answer that question, I just walk away going, you're full of shit. It's a Ponzi scheme, which is what I knew when I heard about it years and years ago by my brother-in-law. Oh, well, we're putting money, it's in shopping centers, and, it's a higher rate. And I'm like, the fuck you talking about? I just laugh. I said, I don't want anything to do with it. And then you leave your money in there. And then when it goes bust and it goes to zero, and then you get upset. Oh, so we're warning you as if I would have warned you on Madoff. I'm warning you on this. And if you don't do anything and then you want to start crying, oh, my money's worthless. Hey, don't come to me. I told you 2 years ago, 3 years ago, before Alabama, I was buying gold. And I've already gone and come back. It's already been 2 years now. You can't, the dollar's going down, and you can see it really getting down. These wars are a warning sign. We're bankrupting everybody. And, I think it's basically a Nazi ploy to bankrupt everybody and make everybody, basically this is the way they want to blow up the world, is by taking the money to zero, and then nobody will be able to afford anything. They'll all die because they won't be able to eat. Something along those lines. It's a scary thought, but what happens when all these people who don't have gold have money and it's worthless? And it will be worthless. Go look at Venezuela. You wanna get a feel, go to Venezuela, go to Greece, look at Pakistan. Take a look at what's happening. Look at Zimbabwe. Take a look at Zimbabwe. Their dollar is crap. But what did they do? They came out with gold. They came out with gold coins to save their country. I don't know what else I need to say, and it's coming here. I mean, if you think, oh, those guys are smart, that's a alligator. Somebody said, oh, the central banks are smart. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're not smart. If they're smart, they'd be backing by gold by already for 50 years. So the fact this has been going on for 50 years, and then why would it stop is a stupid argument. It just will. They just, people will listen to the banks. What it is they don't know, and they'll listen to, Biden, or they'll listen to Powell or whoever, and they'll say, well, he's smart. He knows what he's doing. He'll protect us. That's how stupid people are. And I'm sure the Germans, oh, we got Hitler. Yeah, we're okay. What do you mean we got to go to a concentration camp? Wait a minute. That's not part of the plan. That's what you have. You got, really, I don't know what you do about government. I don't think Egon's thing was good about Switzerland. You don't want a democracy. You really want is just a limited republic. Here's the Constitution, and this is the laws we run by, and that's it. You can't change them. And it's not a democracy where if 10 people want it, if there's 10 people and 6 want it and 4 don't, then it becomes Georgia doesn't get in, Alabama does, which is not right either. The only thing you can really do is just have the rule book, the Constitution, and basically these are the rules. Nobody kills, nobody does this, nobody does that. Gold is the currency. That's how the U.S. Constitution is. Gold and silver is the only currency, and there shouldn't be a central bank, and yet they're ignoring the Constitution. Well, what else can you do? You shouldn't be allowed to ignore the Constitution or change the Constitution. You can't say, well, that was in 1776. Well, they knew what the fuck they were talking about. They watched the Spanish and the Romans. I mean, the Romans were in zero. I mean, it was 2,000 years ago. You don't need... what changed? Well, they took their money, the gold out of their money, and they collapsed. Well, basically, that shows you what you do when you fuck your money up. So we'll put a constitution. You can't fuck the money up, and yet they still fuck the money up. So it's just amazing how corrupt everything is. Power corrupts. I don't know. There should be a leader. I really don't think it, but you need some sort of way to control the people with some sort of army or police to protect legally and protect your money. If somebody steals from you or hurts you, you should have a recourse. I agree with that, but I don't know that there's a leader or a king or a dictator that should be telling you what to do. I think it should be Adam Smith. You do what's best for yourself. That's how I think the country should be run, with laws, sound money, and some sort of military to protect us, but a small military, and not in every fucking country, just to protect your own borders. Hey, again, Greg John goes and vampires. Okay. I got the over in the Detroit game, so I'm happy they got 21. I hope they get 21 more. I need 40. I think I need 41 in that game, so 42 would be nice. But Gregor, you want picks? Teaserking.com, go buy the picks. That's the point of this. This is actually like you're supposed to buy the picks. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I'm going to go, and I got to get to the club and have dinner, watch some football, and off I go. So good luck today, everybody. Again, Denver's the free play. I think they're on at 4. I don't know. Bobby, the crazy and in some way funny thing is most of my family and friends tend to ask me for advice on various things and appreciate the feedback. But the times I try out voluntarily inform them of this. See, that's your problem, Bobby. They'll come like you're here to learn. So if I came to you and told you this, you don't want to learn it. But when you want to learn it, then you listen. So when they come to you for advice, they want to learn it. When you give them the advice, they don't want to learn it. Now, what'll happen, Bobby, is they'll hear it on some TV or something. They'll talk about gold. And then they'll come to you for advice on it, which you're going to shake your head and say, well, I've been trying to tell you for a year and a half now to buy gold and silver. That's what happens, right? So at first you tell it and nobody believes you, or they're just not interested in it. But then they hear it from other people or other sources. And then it's like who you hear it from, right? So I can tell you and you get it. If Greg and John tried to tell you, you'd go, fuck Greg and John, I'm not going to listen to you. So that's the problem is who are you trusting? Who are you listening to get your information? But you got to be a critical thinker and understand. In other words, you say to yourself, why is gold 2,000 an ounce? It should be higher, shouldn't it? Or why doesn't it go up? Or why is silver 25? And so you start asking those questions, and then you find me and I give you the answer and you go, then I give you other things and you go, well, he told me about this, so he must know. And then off you go. And then the more you trust me, the more you believe me, the more you then you start believing, and then you do what you think is you buy the gold and silver because you realize that's the play to do. And that's why until you get to that, I can't come up to you. That's why in the hot tub, I go up to the people and say, you buying gold and silver? They don't want to hear it. But I do get people who come up to me, oh, yeah, you know all that about gold. Teach me. Then that's a different story. So they've got to have the mind open to get it. And that's clearly what's happening with you and Greg and John. Your family, the mind isn't open. They don't see the need. You see the iceberg hit the Titanic, and you get me, and we go into the lifeboat immediately. We don't wait for the water to fill up and the boat to sink. We go into the lifeboat because we go hit iceberg, sink, get the hell out. What's our out? What's our exit strategy? We see paper going to zero. What's our exit strategy? Buy gold and silver. So we get what's happening. They don't get what's happening. They don't believe that the dollar's going away or it has no value. They can't believe it. They don't, because they don't know what inflation is. They think it's prices. And you know what? And in 1980, it was there and it went down and then it came back. To, it always fixes itself. So it'll fix itself this time. Well, we got 35 trillion in debt, says it won't fix itself. That's the biggest problem. And they keep printing money and the money's worthless. So they don't get the whole point. They don't get BRICS and Russia and China with the gold, wanting the gold price to go up, blowing up COMEX. So they don't understand the variables and the changes that have happened that's going to create the gold price to go up and the silver, and even more that the dollar is going to zero. They don't get all that. They don't know to ask that question. And when you got to explain it like that, are they going to believe you? So if you go to your family and say, do you realize the dollar has no value? They won't believe it. Well, I go to the store. Or the one I get is, how am I supposed to go to the grocery store with gold and get change? Because they won't have, the money won't have a value. So they'll pay you back in gold or silver. that's what they'll have because the dollar won't have a value. So it's not like you're going to the grocery store with the goal. How do I buy? No, the best one was, well, how do I buy a cup of coffee? How do I get change for gold buying a cup of coffee? Well, that's not what you do. You don't go to the grocery store with the Mahomes card. Let's say this is worth $5,000. I don't use this to buy milk and cookies. I go sell it and get the money, and then I buy it. With gold, in the meantime, you sell it, and that's the thing. You need money, you go to the coin store, you get money in 5 minutes. If I went to the coin store, well, they're not open today, but let's say they were, and I needed, I would take an ounce, get my 2,000, and I'd have cash in 5 minutes. They'd buy it. That's liquidity. I couldn't do that with this. They wouldn't, or maybe, let's say I have the PSA 10 Montana. Let's say I get it created. It's 10. It's worth 100 and a quarter. Oh, 100. I can't go to the store and get $100,000 for it. Maybe he'd give me $100,000 if he saw it was graded and he saw it's 125 on eBay. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll take 100. And he sees it's 125. Maybe he would give me 100, but not really. I mean, you go to eBay to sell it. You sell your assets on eBay, but you got that medium of exchange, the dollar, to go to the grocery store with. So that whole argument's ridiculous. And then you go with the gold, So it's not like you're going to the grocery store with the gold. You're using the gold to buy the money, whatever the medium of exchange is. So right now, this is what I'm using. And then when this goes out, it'll be replaced by gold and silver. Then the gold and silver you have will now come into play, and it'll be dollars. It won't be, I'm not going to take an ounce to the grocery store or even an ounce of silver. I don't think I'll be taking that. I think I'll be taking a silver dime or a silver quarter to buy groceries, because that's what it'll be worth. It'll be worth a hell of the grow, and they got to reprice all the groceries in gold and silver. This is going to be quite the pain in the neck to reprice everything in gold and silver. But that's where we're headed. It's just taking a while. I mean, the boat took a while to sink, and that's what's happening. And all these guys printing the money, eventually nobody will want it. And as soon as nobody wants it, as soon as there's no market, it's zero. Same thing with the electric cars. As soon as there's no market for it, bye-bye Tesla. Oh, you own an electric car and you paid $100,000 for it? Good luck trying to sell it because there's no demand for it. There's got to be, where do I plug it in? And I was even looking like at my computer, right? When the battery dies. Well, thank you, Bobby Bo. The people like charging your car, right? So I charge my computer, but it doesn't hold the charge as long. And the more you use it and the more you charge it, the battery doesn't hold the charge. Or on your cell phone, right? It's 100% for a while, and then it's quickly goes to 90 and 80, and you got to charge it more. What's going to happen with your car? I mean, when it's new, it'll hold the charge for a while, but after 6 months, it's not going to hold the charge. What do? Buy a new battery? So that's the problem. Why do I want a car that I have to charge a battery for? Batteries do not hold charges. The whole thing is stupid. It must be done by somebody who makes profit on the battery. And it's all a scam. And if you buy it, how do you sell it? If I buy my Camry and it's gas powered, I can easily sell it. If I buy the electric car, good luck selling it. Good luck charging it. I mean, the whole thing's a nightmare. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, Bobby Bo. Have a good day. I hope you guys make money. Again, Denver is the free play. And I had a perfect day yesterday, except for the fucking Georgia game. Everything else, I was 8-1, and had a lot of double teasers. So I was like 15-2, basically. And anyway, we will see. So have a good day. And I'm off to the pool, and off I go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. www.teaserking.com. If you want the rest of the year, you can get all the bowls and the pros for $200. Just buy the $200 package. And I haven't set it up like that yet because I got to talk to the IT guy. I will change the bowls to 100. So if you want bowls, just buy the $100 package. and then send me an email saying, yeah, I want the bowl package. It'll be up next week. For the $200 package, just buy a $200 and email me. This is for the rest of the year, and I'll send you that password. So I got to give you a different password than what you're getting. Anyway, have a nice day. www.teaserking.com. Take care, everybody.